You are about to witness the absolute death of common sense. We've scraped the bottom of the complaint box to find the most delusional, entitled, and scientifically impossible demands in cinema history. From lawsuits over square ice to people calling the police because the 3D didn't physically attack them. These aren't just bad customers, they are glitches in the simulation. Here are 69 proof points that the customer is actually usually wrong. 1. Imagine lodging a formal complaint not about the film, but about the auditory assault of your own snack. A man at an AMC in Ohio did just that, claiming his popcorn was so aggressively crunchy that it created a hostile soundscape, completely overpowering the movie's delicate score. He wrote in his official complaint that the theater was promoting acoustically hostile concession items and demanded a refund for the sonic tyranny of his own snack choice. He wasn't mad at them, he was mad at the physics of his popcorn. 2. A Florida woman took the promise of 3D cinema a little too literally, filing a complaint for false advertising. Her issue? The animated toucans in the kids' movie didn't actually fly out of the screen and try to steal her food. She also noted that during an action scene, she didn't feel the radiant warmth from on-screen explosions. She told the baffled teenage manager that the experience wasn't just disappointing, it felt like a breach of contract with reality itself, and she wanted her $12.50 back for the emotional damages. 3. It wasn't that the trailers were too long, but that they were, and this is a real quote, dangerously inspirational. A father complained after his 9-year-old son saw a trailer for a spy thriller and immediately lost interest in his promising future in data entry. The father demanded that the theater show trailers exclusively for more sensible and achievable careers, like insurance adjustment or forklift operation, to avoid planting unrealistic dreams of international espionage in the minds of impressionable children. 4. We all know the annoyance of someone kicking your seat, but one man in Austin flipped the script entirely. He complained that the person sitting behind him was unnervingly motionless. He was so used to the familiar, gentle rhythm of seat kicking that the complete absence of it created a profound and unsettling void of movement. He described it as a form of psychological warfare, stating the eerie stillness was more distracting than any physical jostling, and it completely shattered his immersion in the film. 5. In a moment that should be in a museum of terrible takes, a customer furiously demanded a refund because the foreign film he was watching had subtitles. He slammed his fist on the counter proclaiming, "I paid to watch a movie, not to read a book for 2 hours." He then genuinely suggested that for the price of a ticket, the theater should have hired live voice actors to stand on a stage and dub the movie in real time. His core argument: literacy should not be a prerequisite for enjoying cinema. 6. One patron's 2-page complaint letter had nothing to do with the film, the sound, or the picture. It was about the ice, specifically the shape of the ice in her Diet Coke. She argued that the hard, aggressive cuboid geometry of the ice cubes was sonically incompatible with the romantic comedy she was watching. The sharp, clanking sounds, she wrote, ruined the tender moments. Her official suggestion was that the theater switch to a softer pellet-style ice for a more harmonious beverage experience. 7. In Boston, a man complained that the theater's air conditioning was producing the wrong kind of cold. He described the theater's climate as a damp, coastal cold, which he claimed was terrible for his sinuses and reminded him of a cellar. What he had been expecting and what he felt he had paid for was a crisp, dry mountain air cold. He asked the manager if they could adjust the atmospheric texture, leaving the poor employee to explain that they unfortunately did not have an alpine setting on the thermostat. 8. A woman's complaint began before she even bought a ticket, right out in the parking lot. She sought out a manager to formally complain that the garish safety yellow lines of the parking spaces were a direct aesthetic assault on her brand-new champagne silver Lexus. She claimed the color combination was visually offensive and made her luxury vehicle look cheap, which in turn ruined her entire mood for the evening. Her proposed solution was for them to repaint the entire lot in a more complimentary charcoal gray. 9. One regular customer in Seattle developed a personal beef with a movie poster in the lobby. She claimed the handsome actor on the poster was actively judging her. She insisted his eyes followed her every time she went to the restroom and that his smug, knowing smirk seemed to silently mock her for upgrading to the large popcorn with extra butter. After weeks of this perceived torment, she demanded the manager either move the poster or put a small piece of black tape over the actor's eyes. 10. Sometimes technology is just too good for its own good. A man in California filed a complaint citing the theater's negligent use of hyper-realistic audio technology. During a war movie, the Dolby surround sound was so convincing that he genuinely believed the theater was under attack. He army-crawled his way out of the auditorium to safety, only to find a perfectly calm lobby with teenagers buying slushies. He missed the film's climax and demanded a refund for the emotional distress caused by the deceptively immersive sound system. 11. A man in Denver lodged a complaint against a Regal cinema due to what he called catastrophic architectural negligence. His issue wasn't with the building, but with the flimsy cardboard nacho tray. He claimed its poor structural integrity led to a critical cheese failure mid-movie, causing molten cheese to slide directly onto his new pants. He demanded not only a refund for the snack in the movie, but also compensation for the emotional trauma and dry cleaning costs associated with the poorly engineered tray. 12. After a screening of a feel-good romantic drama, a woman marched to guest services to complain that the movie's happy ending was unrealistically optimistic. She argued that by presenting such a perfect resolution, the theater was promoting toxic positivity and setting a dangerous precedent for modern relationships. She felt emotionally manipulated by the cheerful conclusion and demanded her money back on the grounds of what she termed narrative false advertising. She basically wanted a refund for not being miserable enough. 13. This one is a masterpiece of nitpicking. A man complained about the person sitting next to him, not for talking or texting, but for breathing. He claimed the man's breathing was overly manual and distracting. He told the manager that the rhythm was completely out of sync with the film's musical score, and that he found the sound of non-automated respiration to be deeply unsettling. He asked if the other patron could be moved to a different section for his uncinematic breathing patterns. 14. During a horror movie, a patron complained that the green emergency exit signs were ruining the atmosphere. He argued that the comforting, hopeful glow of the green light completely undermined the film's sense of dread and tension. His official suggestion to the theater management was that they should install color-changing bulbs in the signs and adjust them based on the genre. Red for horror, a somber blue for dramas, and maybe a vibrant pink for musicals. You know, for mood integrity. 15. Here's a level of entitlement that deserves some kind of award. A man complained after a blockbuster movie because his name was not included in the end credits. He had no affiliation with the film whatsoever. His argument was that as a loyal customer who had spent thousands of dollars at that specific theater over the past decade, he should have received a special thanks credit. He considered himself an uncredited emotional stakeholder in the theater's success and felt personally snubbed by the omission. 16. We've all been in a theater that smelled a bit off, but one woman in Portland complained because the theater smelled too clean. She wrote a long email claiming the sterile, scent-neutral environment was disconcerting and lacked the classic nostalgic aroma of stale popcorn and buttery carpet that she associated with a genuine movie-going experience. She accused the management of olfactory gentrification and robbing her of the authentic smells of cinema. 17. It's common to complain about an uncomfortable seat, but one moviegoer's issue was the exact opposite. He complained that the new luxury reclining seat was too comfortable. He claimed its irresponsibly luxurious angle of recline made him so relaxed that he accidentally fell asleep for 15 minutes, missing a crucial plot twist. He squarely blamed the chair's excessive and frankly negligent level of comfort for his ruined experience and demanded a full refund. 18. A history buff in Virginia filed a formal complaint about a period drama set in the 1970s. His issue wasn't the dialogue or the costumes, it was a plastic cup. He paused the movie in his mind, stormed out, and informed the manager that a background character was drinking from a cup with a lid design that wasn't patented until 1983. He accused the theater of promoting historical negligence and being complicit in this glaring act of anachronistic laziness. 19. A complaint for the modern age. A man was furious about the glow from another patron's smartwatch. It wasn't the light itself that bothered him. He claimed he could see the man's heart rate displayed on the screen, and that it would spike a few seconds before every jump scare in the horror movie. He argued this was a biometric spoiler, as the man's heart rate was telegraphing the scares and ruining the suspense. He demanded a ban on all emotionally transparent wearable technology. 20. After sitting through the pre-show trivia, a woman complained to the manager that the questions were intellectually demoralizing. She claimed that getting 3 questions in a row wrong made her feel acutely unintelligent, right before her film was supposed to start, which cast a negative intellectual shadow over her entire evening. Her proposed solution was that the theater should either make the questions significantly easier or just replace the trivia with a slideshow of puppies. 21. One customer lodged a complaint about the employee uniforms. She insisted that the bright red polo shirts worn by the staff were visually aggressive and a major distraction when they walked through the theater before the lights went down. She wrote in the comments card that the color was so vibrant, it pulled her focus away from the screen and made her think about Target. She suggested they switch to a more cinematically neutral color, like beige or a soft gray. 22. In a complaint that sounds like it was written by an optometrist, a man claimed the pattern on the theater's carpet was giving him motion sickness. He stated that the aggressive, swirling vortex of colors was vestibularly hostile and made him feel dizzy as he walked to his seat. He argued that this initial disorientation negatively impacted his ability to perceive the film's opening scene correctly and demanded a voucher for a future visit, provided they changed the carpet to a solid color. 23. After watching a big-budget science fiction movie, a man who claimed to be an amateur physicist complained that the film's fictional science wasn't plausible enough. His issue wasn't with aliens or faster-than-light travel, but with the incorrect depiction of non-Newtonian fluid dynamics and zero gravity. He felt the theater was irresponsibly endorsing bad science, and that it was their duty to screen films that adhered more closely to the theoretical laws of astrophysics. 24. A woman in a luxury cinema complained about the physical movie ticket itself. She argued that for the $30 she paid for her VIP experience, the ticket should not be printed on flimsy, common receipt paper. She expected a premium, heavy-stock, embossed ticket that felt like an invitation to an exclusive event. She told the manager that the cheap feel of the ticket devalued the entire experience before she even sat down, and it was, in her words, a tactile disappointment. 25. One parent was furious about a movie's PG-13 rating, but not for the usual reasons. He agreed the rating was appropriate, but he complained that the reason for the rating, listed as brief suggestive content, was inaccurate. He insisted the content was much more overtly raunchy than briefly suggestive, and that the MPAA's mild description, which the theater displayed, had misled him. He was essentially complaining that the rating wasn't descriptive enough of the very thing it was warning him about. 26. During a packed comedy show, a man walked out to complain about the rest of the audience. His problem? They were laughing incorrectly. He claimed the crowd was laughing too loud at the cheap slapstick jokes, but were completely silent during the more subtle, witty dialogue. He felt that their unsophisticated sense of humor was creating a lowbrow atmosphere that prevented him, a true comedy connoisseur, from properly enjoying the film's cleverness. 27. A teenager, brimming with confidence, tried to get a refund by complaining that the movie's plot was too predictable. When the manager calmly explained that they don't offer refunds for subjective opinions on the film's quality, the teen countered with a brilliant argument. He claimed it wasn't an opinion, it was a fact. He had correctly guessed the killer in the first 20 minutes, and therefore the movie had failed to deliver the contractually implied element of surprise that a mystery film owes its audience. 28. One of the most bizarre complaints came from a woman who insisted the theater's butter dispenser for the popcorn was politically biased. When asked to elaborate, she explained that the nozzle was slightly angled to the right, causing the butter to flow in a way that, to her, symbolized a clear endorsement of right-wing politics. She demanded they either center the nozzle perfectly or install a second, left-leaning nozzle to ensure bipartisan butter distribution. 29. After seeing a critically acclaimed 90-minute film, a man complained that he felt cheated by the movie's runtime. His argument wasn't that it was a bad film, but that he had paid the same price as the people in the next theater watching a 3-hour epic. He demanded a partial refund, calculated on a per-minute basis, because he received less total screen time for his money. He genuinely proposed a variable pricing model based on the length of the movie. 30. A gentleman at an ArcLight cinema complained that his gourmet hot dog was thermally ambiguous. He described the experience in great detail, explaining that the hot dog itself was lukewarm, while the bun was toasted to a searing heat. This extreme and unsettling temperature differential, he claimed, created a confusing and unpleasant sensation in his mouth. He wasn't asking for a refund, but rather for the chef to commit to a single, unified temperature vision for their future hot dogs. 31. A woman in a suburban theater lodged a formal complaint stating that the auditorium was irresponsibly dark. She acknowledged that dimming the lights is standard procedure, but she argued that this particular theater had achieved a level of darkness that was oppressive and isolating. She claimed she couldn't see the knitting project she had brought with her, and demanded the manager install reading lights on the back of every seat so patrons could multitask effectively during the slower parts of the movie. 32. We usually complain about crowded theaters, but a man in Ohio demanded a refund because the theater was empty. He had purchased a ticket for a horror movie on a Tuesday afternoon and found himself to be the sole patron. He argued that the lack of other people's fear reactions diluted the communal terror he had paid for. He told the manager that watching a scary movie alone was free on Netflix, and he paid for the collective anxiety of a crowd. 33. After watching the first part of a planned trilogy, a customer stormed out furious about the cliffhanger ending. He wasn't mad at the director. He was mad at the theater for selling him a ticket to half a product. He compared it to buying a car with only 2 wheels and claimed the theater had engaged in narrative fraud. He demanded they either play the sequel immediately or refund 50% of his ticket price for the missing conclusion. 34. A fashion-conscious moviegoer filed a complaint regarding the 3D glasses. She wasn't complaining about the fit or the visual quality, but rather that the clunky black plastic frames clashed horribly with her carefully curated outfit. She told the staff that the glasses were aesthetically offensive and ruined her look for the post-movie selfies. She suggested the theater should offer a range of designer frames in various colors to ensure sartorial harmony for their more stylish patrons. 35. One of the most bizarre complaints came from a man who attended a matinee showing. He was furious that when he walked out of the theater at 4 in the afternoon, the sun was still shining brightly. He claimed the violent transition from the dark theater to the blinding daylight caused him ocular shock and ruined the movie's lingering mood. He suggested the theater build a light decompression chamber in the lobby to help patrons slowly reacclimate to the existence of the sun. 36. A customer took serious issue with the pre-show public service announcement asking people to silence their phones. He felt the tone of the recorded voice was condescending and aggressive. He argued that as a paying customer, he shouldn't be lectured like a delinquent schoolboy before his entertainment. He demanded a personal apology from the management for the emotional injury caused by the stern voice, claiming it made him feel guilty even though his phone was already off. 37. A popcorn purist caused a scene over the distribution of butter in his large bucket. He claimed the top-heavy layering was a deceptive business practice known as the yellow illusion. He argued that by only buttering the top layer, the theater was tricking customers into a false sense of flavor security. He demanded that the concession staff use a syringe to inject butter into the arid, flavorless core of the popcorn to ensure structural equity for every kernel. 38. In a dispute over personal space, a man complained that the armrests were sociologically ambiguous. He wasn't fighting with a neighbor, he was fighting with the design. He argued that the shared armrest created a territorial no man's land that caused him unnecessary stress. He proposed that the theater should install a physical barrier or a demilitarized zone on every armrest to clearly delineate ownership and prevent accidental elbow contact with strangers, which he described as intimacy without consent. 39. A detail-oriented fan filed a complaint about an action star's height. He claimed that the actor, who is notoriously short in real life, looked deceptively tall on the big screen. He felt the theater was complicit in a height enhancement conspiracy that gave young men unrealistic expectations about vertical growth. He asked the manager to put a disclaimer on the poster stating the actor's actual height to maintain biological transparency and prevent short men from feeling inadequate. 40. A film student with sensitive ears complained about the use of the Wilhelm scream, a stock sound effect used in many movies. He heard it during an intense action scene and claimed it shattered the fourth wall for him. He demanded a refund, arguing that the theater should screen a sanitized version of the film without cliché sound effects. He told the manager that hearing that specific scream was like seeing a boom mic drop into the frame, and it ruined his immersion. 41. This complaint concerns bathroom breaks. A man was upset that the restrooms did not have speakers playing the movie's audio. He had to use the facilities during a crucial dialogue scene and missed a major plot point. He argued that since he paid for the entire movie, the theater had an obligation to provide continuous audio coverage throughout the building, including the stalls. He called the silence in the bathroom a service gap that cost him the understanding of the film. 42. A customer with a large soda complained that the cup holders were aggressively deep. He claimed that his drink sat so low in the holder that retrieving it required a tactical extraction mission that distracted him from the screen. He argued that the struggle to lift his beverage created a kinetic disturbance that rippled through his entire row. He suggested the theater install hydraulic lifts in the armrests to present the drink to the patron at a more ergonomic height. 43. After a vampire movie, a woman complained that the film didn't follow established vampire lore. She was furious that the vampires on screen could walk in sunlight without burning to a crisp. She accused the theater of disseminating supernatural misinformation and worried that the movie would confuse the younger generation about the biological realities of the undead. She genuinely seemed concerned about the educational impact of a fantasy film on the local youth. 44. In a true conspiracy theory moment, a man complained that the theater was pumping laughing gas into the ventilation system during a comedy. He insisted that the movie wasn't funny enough to warrant the amount of laughter coming from the audience. He claimed the theater was chemically manipulating the crowd's reaction to boost the film's ratings. He demanded an air quality test to prove that the joy in the room was artificial and not a result of the script. 45. A patron complained about the noise of other people's candy, not the chewing, but the crinkling of the wrappers. He claimed the specific frequency of a Skittles bag opening was piercing his eardrums and overpowering the dialogue. He proposed that the theater should force all concession companies to switch to stealth packaging, made of silent fabric-like materials. He argued that the current plastic wrappers were acoustically incompatible with a premium cinema experience and constituted noise pollution. 46. A vertically challenged gentleman complained that the seats were discriminatory against short people. He claimed that when he sat all the way back, his feet dangled off the floor, cutting off his circulation. He described the experience as ergonomic torture and demanded the theater provide footstools for patrons under 5'5". He argued that by ignoring the needs of the shorter demographic, the theater was engaging in height-based negligence and making him feel like a toddler. 47. A woman was irate after seeing a movie billed as based on a true story. Her complaint was that the lead actor was far too handsome to play the real-life figure, who was, by all accounts, an average-looking person. She accused the theater of aesthetic dishonesty and historical revisionism via hotness. She felt that casting such an attractive person distorted the truth and demanded they show a documentary alongside the film to balance the beauty scales. 48. One regular customer complained that the air in the theater tasted used. He claimed that by the third act of a sold-out blockbuster, the oxygen levels felt depleted, and he was breathing in secondhand exhalations. He described the atmosphere as respiratory soup and demanded the theater install oxygen masks that drop from the ceiling, similar to airplanes, for crowded showings. He argued it was a health and safety issue, not just a matter of comfort. 49. A man lodged a complaint about the ticket taker's attitude. The employee hadn't been rude. In fact, he had smiled and said, "Enjoy the show." The problem was that the customer was seeing a depressing, tragic drama. He felt the employee's toxic cheerfulness was completely out of sync with the somber tone of the film he was about to see. He argued that staff should be trained to match their emotional demeanor to the genre of the movie on the ticket. 50. A woman complained about the music played during the end credits. She stayed until the lights came up, as many do, but found the closing song to be emotionally devastating. She claimed she left the theater feeling far more depressed than the movie itself warranted. She told the manager that the theater had a responsibility to safely offboard patrons back into reality with upbeat music, rather than dumping them onto the street in a state of musical melancholy. 51. There is a specific kind of discomfort that comes with sitting in a pre-warmed seat, but one customer took it to a legal level. He complained that the seat was aggressively retaining the body heat of the previous occupant. He described the sensation as non-consensual thermal intimacy with a stranger and argued that the theater should have a cooling period between screenings. He demanded the staff blast the seats with liquid nitrogen or industrial fans to ensure a thermally neutral start to his movie experience. 52. High-definition cameras are great, but a woman in New York complained that the picture quality was too invasive. Watching a close-up of a famous actress, she was horrified to see the texture of the star's skin and makeup lines. She filed a complaint stating that the 4K projection was dermatologically disrespectful and shattered the illusion of Hollywood perfection. She requested the projectionist slightly blur the focus during close-ups to maintain the mystique of celebrity and protect her from the reality of pores. 53. A logic-driven patron was absolutely baffled by the behavior of the audience at the end of a film. He went to the manager to complain about people clapping at the credits. His argument was that the actors, director, and crew were not physically present in the building, making the applause a performative delusion. He felt the theater was encouraging collective insanity by allowing people to clap for a hard drive, and he wanted a rule instated that banned applause unless a cast member was actually in the room. 54. We all have that friend who checks IMDb during the movie, but this guy was on another level. He stormed out of a historical biopic to complain that the film had deviated from the Wikipedia article he was reading on his phone during the screening. He accused the theater of disseminating historical fiction as fact and demanded they pause the movie to announce that the protagonist actually had 3 sisters, not 2. He was more concerned with the accuracy of his Google search than the flow of the narrative. 55. Sound issues are common, but this complaint was about a specific, fluid-based noise. A woman complained that the sound of her own straw hitting the bottom of her empty soda cup was acoustically amplified by the theater's acoustics. She claimed the guttural, desperate slurping noise she made while trying to get the last drop of Diet Coke was so loud it embarrassed her in front of her date. She blamed the cup design and the auditorium's unforgiving echo for her social humiliation. 56. A man watching a survival movie set in a freezing, snowy landscape complained about thermal dissonance. He was upset that the theater was heated to a comfortable 70 degrees while the characters on screen were freezing to death. He argued that the warmth broke his immersion and made it impossible to empathize with the protagonist's struggle against the elements. He genuinely suggested the theater should lower the temperature to near freezing for winter movies to provide a sensorially accurate viewing experience. 57. You know those people who stay until the very last credit rolls? One of them complained that the scroll speed of the end credits was disrespectfully fast. He was trying to read the names of the key grips and best boys to pay his respects to the crew, but the text was flying by too quickly for his eyes to track. He accused the theater of minimizing the labor of the working class and demanded they slow down the projector so every name could be properly acknowledged. 58. A customer with a severe case of snack symmetry complained that his popcorn bucket contained an odd number of kernels. He claimed that he eats popcorn 2 kernels at a time, one for the left side of his mouth, one for the right, and was left with a single lonely kernel at the bottom. He described this final, uneven kernel as a psychological torment that left him feeling unbalanced. He demanded a single complimentary kernel from the concession stand to restore his masticatory equilibrium. 59. In a classic case of user error, a couple complained that the movie they were watching made absolutely no sense. They described the plot as incoherent and jumpy. Upon investigation, the manager discovered they had walked into the wrong theater and had been watching the middle 30 minutes of a completely different sci-fi movie. Despite this being entirely their fault, they demanded a refund for the confusing architectural layout of the hallway that led them into the wrong room. 60. A man attempted to abuse the free refill policy on a large popcorn by bringing in a bucket he had saved from a movie he saw 3 years ago. When the staff refused to refill the greasy, disintegrating cardboard relic, he filed a formal complaint about retroactive contract violation. He argued that the bucket was a lifetime vessel and that the theater was failing to honor the spirit of the refill, regardless of the fact that the design on the bucket was for a movie that was no longer in theaters. 61. The 3D glasses are never high fashion, but one germaphobe complained that the glasses he received still had optical residue on the lenses. He wasn't talking about smudges. He was convinced the glasses retained the visual memories of the previous user. He claimed that looking through them made him feel the ghostly presence of someone else's eye movements, which he found spiritually crowding. He demanded a brand new, factory-sealed pair of glasses that had never witnessed another movie. 62. A short woman sitting behind a particularly tall man didn't complain to the man. She complained to the management about their biological screening process. She argued that the theater should measure patrons' heights at the door and seat them accordingly, like a school class photo. She proposed a height-graded seating chart, where the tallest people are legally required to sit in the back row to prevent cranial obstruction for the rest of the paying public. 63. After watching a tearjerker of a drama, a woman demanded compensation not for the ticket, but for her cosmetics. She claimed the movie was negligently sad and caused her to cry so much that her expensive mascara ran, ruining her silk blouse. She argued that the theater should have provided a sadness warning or complimentary waterproof makeup wipes. She categorized the emotional impact of the film as property damage to her face and clothing. 64. We all hate it when the lights come up too early, but one man complained that the lights came up judgmentally fast. He claimed that the abrupt transition from the movie's darkness to the bright house lights revealed his tear-streaked face and open bag of M&Ms to the rest of the audience before he had time to compose himself. He called it a violation of emotional privacy and suggested a 5-minute dimmer phase so patrons could fix their faces and hide their shame. 65. A patron lodged a complaint about the floor, but not because it was dirty. He complained that the floor was predatorily sticky. He claimed the adhesive quality of the soda-stained carpet was so strong it actually pulled his loafer off his foot when he tried to stand up. He had to pry his shoe off the ground, which he described as a battle for footwear independence. He demanded the theater pay for a shoe shine to remove the syrupy grip from his soles. 66. Distractions are annoying, but this one came from a child's fashion choice. A man complained that the kid sitting 2 rows ahead of him had those sneakers that light up every time you step. The kid was restless, kicking his feet, creating a stroboscopic disco effect in the dark theater. The man argued that bioluminescent footwear should be banned from cinemas as it constitutes a visual hazard and distracts from the carefully lighting of the film. 67. A woman complained that she was shushed by another patron. She admitted she was talking during the movie, but she argued that her commentary was additive and educational for the people around her. She felt the person who silenced her was infringing on her right to free speech and demanded the manager eject the censorship advocate who shushed her. She genuinely believed her narration was improving the movie for everyone else in the row. 68. Marketing can be tricky, but one man felt personally betrayed by the tone of a trailer. He complained that a trailer for a horror movie was shown before a lighthearted comedy, causing him tonal whiplash. He claimed the sudden switch from fear to laughter gave him emotional vertigo and ruined his ability to relax for the main feature. He demanded that trailers be emotionally curated to match the exact vibe of the film he was about to see to prevent mood swings. 69. And finally, the most existential complaint of them all. A man walked out of a high-budget superhero movie and demanded a refund because the movie made his real life feel inadequately exciting. He argued that the theater had provided an escape so vivid and colorful that returning to the lobby and walking to his Honda Civic caused him severe post-cinematic depression. He blamed the theater for highlighting the mundane nature of his existence and wanted his money back for the psychological damage of reality. So we've officially established that humanity is doomed. Now, I want you to expose yourself in the comments. Be honest, what is the most irrational, petty, or weird thing that secretly annoys you in a movie theater? Is it the chewing sound? The armrest politics? The specific smell of the carpet? Roast your own pettiness down below. I'll pin the most absurd confession. Smash that like button if you survive the cringe, and subscribe so you don't miss the next disaster.